Hi. In this video, I'll take a look at the new Maschine software version 3. It's a paid upgrade to Native Instruments' popular Maschine 2 music production software. Probably the biggest new feature is stem separation. Just for fun, I'll compare that to the competing MPC technology with surprising results. And then Maschine 3 has other welcome additions like per scene tempo, support for more file formats, new MIDI editing tools, bouncing sounds to audio, as well as the beginnings of an integration with Native's Kontrol M3 keyboards. Also being offered alongside Maschine 3 is a big new factory library called Maschine Central, so I'll explore what's in there too. At the end, I'll take a look at whether it's worth the upgrade and pros and cons for Maschine overall compared to the competition. Before I start, a quick disclosure, Native gave me a license to the software and expansion pack. Other than that, no money changed hands, they have no say over the content of this video and don't get to see it before it's published. Okay, I'll start with an overview of exactly what it is we're talking about. This video is about the new Maschine 3 music production software for Mac and Windows computers and the Maschine Central content pack. At this time, no new Maschine hardware or controller hardware is being introduced. You can use the new Maschine 3 software on its own without any controller hardware, but if you like, these updates work with the existing Maschine Mark III and Micro controllers, as well as Maschine Plus in controller mode. Maschine Jam is also supported. The software also now has an integration with the Kontrol Mark III keyboards, though this isn't as comprehensive as the Mark II integration, at least not yet, and we'll take a look at this in a bit. Also, as of the making of this video, Maschine Plus in standalone mode isn't getting Maschine 3 features, and Maschine 3 projects won't load on Maschine Plus, but I'm told that compatibility is coming soon. Okay, let's dive in and take a look and listen to stem separation. Maschine 3 can take a finished mix and extract 4 tracks out of it, the drums, bass, vocals, and another track with all the rest. And the goal is to use AI to have them sound as close as possible to as if you had the original stems. Now, it turns out that after comparing this to MPC's stem separation technology, while both extract the same types of tracks, they don't sound the same. So to have a little fun with this, I won't tell you which song I sampled, but I sampled very popular songs. See how many stems it takes before you figure out the song. Before I let you compare both technologies, while this exercise is fair use in my opinion, if parts of this segment of the video are silent, it's because I got a copyright claim. I hope I don't, so you can hear the differences yourself, but I'll summarize my thoughts at the end of this segment. Anyway, let's listen to a few examples. Maschine drums versus MPC drums. Bass versus bass, and this might start to give it away. And on MPC. The others, first on Maschine. And on MPC. And vocals, Maschine.
Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24-karat magic in the air.
And MPC.
Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24-karat magic in the air.
Let's try a different one. I'll start with MPC first. And Maschine. Let's compare the bass. MPC first. Maschine. Other on MPC. There's some bleed of vocals there. much less so on Maschine, and vocals on MPC.
You can be sure.
And machine.
You can be sure.
So it depends how you treat harmonies. Machine added them to the vocals and MPC to the stem called others. Let's try another one. Drums on machine. And drums on MPC. Maybe slightly less artifacts on MPC. Let's try bass, machine. For some reason, the bass fades out here and goes to the others stem. Meanwhile, MPC. Other on machine. Other on MPC. Vocals on machine.
Just like the one-winged dove sings songs, sounds like she's singing. Said who, baby, who? Said who?
MPC.
Just like the one-winged dove sings songs, sounds like she's singing. Said who, baby, who? Said who?
And this is a quieter song, so machine didn't find drums or bass on this, and I think rightfully so. MPC didn't find drums or almost no drums here, and then this is what it found on the bass track. Which is actually part of the guitar on the other track. Guitar in Hammond. And then you'll see what happened here in a bit. It took that over to the other track and brought some vocals in here too. This is the other track, whereas this is the other track on machine. Hammond and guitar all the way through, with some vocals there at the end from the audience, and then vocals on MPC.
Take me to your river. I wanna go.
So a bit of the guitar bled in there at the end, whereas on machine.
Take me to your river. I wanna go.
With the audience. So what's the conclusion? If I didn't get a copyright claim, let me know in the comments. In my opinion, overall, I think vocals on machine were better, and MPC does a slightly better job with drums. For bass and others, there were artifacts on both occasionally. I don't think there's a clear winner, but let me know in the comments. In terms of wishlist features, it would be nice to break down instruments a little further, as opposed to having just an other category. There's software called RipX that can do that, so hopefully that tech finds its way here. Moving on, the next new feature in Maschine 3 is a small one, but a major one if you ever tried creating a multi-song project for a live set, and that's the ability to set a tempo per scene. So a little trick that I used previously was to write the tempo on the group name or scene name. We no longer have to do that. Just go to the scene you want to lock tempo to, say this one which isn't assigned yet, change the overall project tempo, then right-click the scene and select scene tempo. And you'll see this little line on top of the scene's tempo. You can also do that in the controller, and your tempo will change per scene. This, of course, also works if you want to change tempo mid-song. Such a small but great improvement. Hopefully Native will also give us a way to import songs into a single project to make it easier to build live sets. Next up, bouncing sounds in place into audio has been added. This is a feature you'll find useful if you've got a sound that uses one or more plugins that take up a lot of CPU power, or if you're using a plugin that doesn't run on Maschine Plus standalone, and you'd like to run your project on Maschine Plus, assuming of course Maschine Plus gets the Maschine 3 update. To bounce a sound in place, simply right-click it and choose bounce. Before you do so, you'll get this warning pop-up, which makes sense since bouncing is a one-way ticket transition. Once your sound is an audio file, any plugin controls you had will be gone, and the melody and notes will be fixed into a sample. So all these notes will be gone. Be sure to back up your project before you do this. Let's hit allow once. Any notes you programmed, all that will be gone and will be replaced with a sample. It'll play the same, but just be a single sample. You can still undo this, by the way, if you don't save your project. And what Maschine 3 does really nicely, if you choose a sound that appears in multiple patterns and has a different sequence per pattern, then it takes care of everything behind the scenes for you. So I'll right click and then hit bounce, allow, and you'll see it going through all 4 patterns, making a different sample for each pattern. And all these samples are stored as takes within that sound. Just don't forget, all your note data, all your plugins are gone. All you have left is an audio module holding a sample or multiple takes. You can always, of course, undo this before you save and bring things back to the way they were. So that's extremely nice. My feature request here would be to have an export to Maschine Plus option where any plugins that aren't supported in Maschine Plus would automatically get converted and bounced in place so that even projects with third-party plugins would run seamlessly on Maschine Plus. Next up, a few MIDI editing tools have been added. My favorite is that if this little speaker is on, then every note you press is auditioned, including when you move it. Besides that, right-click gives you access to tools that weren't available previously, and there are keyboard shortcuts for these as well. So draw lets you draw without double-clicking, and join will let you join notes to create ties, and as you may have guessed, split will do the opposite. And then mute will let you mute carelessly placed notes or unmute them. And of course, select will do as select does. Then finally, for the software itself, you can now import more formats, MP3, MP4, FLAC, and OGG. Now, when I saw MP4 in the release notes, I was hopeful that you could also import and play video files like you can in Ableton Live, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Then beside the software updates, if you happen to have a Kontrol M3 keyboard, there's finally the beginnings of an integration with it. Basic transport controls work, and as we play through the different sounds, you can see their NKS controls appear on screen. You can go ahead and edit instruments. So all their NKS2 controls are here. You can also travel across the plugins using the buttons on top here, which may be off camera, but these are the plugins in this chain. And there's also play assist. So this is the keyboard's built-in play assist, but if I hold shift and press the off-screen button here, which points to plugin, then we've got access to Machine's arpeggiator with hold and all the goodies you'd expect. So that's nice and useful. Of course, there are things we'd like to see beyond the arpeggiator. For example, browsing for presets, that currently doesn't work. Undo doesn't work. Quantize doesn't work. There's no access to the mixer, so none of the goodies we're used to here, including scene, pattern, or event access. And while we're at it, I might as well ask for custom chord banks. Okay, so that's it for what's new in the Maschine software. Beside that, Native Instruments is also introducing a new factory library called Maschine Central. So if I browse here through products, you'll see it appear here. And unlike most of the other expansions that I've seen that are between 500 or several hundred megabytes to 1.5 or even 1.7 gigs, Maschine Central is 7.7 gigabytes of content. That includes a few factory projects, but more interestingly, dozens of kits in multiple genres. So, quite a lot to explore just in terms of available kits. And then There are also a bunch of sounds. These include presets for various instruments, including plenty of multi-sampled instruments. If we go into sampling and then zones, you'll see that these include multi-samples not just for different ranges on the keyboard, but also for different velocities. And you'll see these highlight as I play them at different velocities. It loads up different samples. You can browse these, by the way, through the software, of course, as well, not just the hardware. So this is also another example of a multi-sampled instrument. So there are 144 of these across multiple different contact instruments. These are, of course, just multi-samples of those contact instruments. So you don't get the actual contact library, but you get a little multi-sampled snippet of many of them. You can also search through these. There are a few pianos here, not as many as I would have liked to see. And some of these aren't multi-sampled across multiple velocities, as you can see here. That's not a multi-sample at all. But some are. Piano Colors is a treated piano. So there's a lot to explore in here. Of course, I've been playing these on the keyboard, but you can also play them here. So that's it for what's new in Maschine 3 and the Maschine Central expansion. Regarding whether it's worth it, Native are making the Maschine software and the expansion available separately or as a discounted bundle. I don't know how much it's going to cost you when you're watching this video. Right now it's $30 for the Maschine software and another $50 for the expansion pack, or $70 if you buy both. Regarding the Maschine software, as of the making of this video, it won't support the old Maschine Micro and Maschine Mark 1 and 2. So if you want to continue using those, don't upgrade. If I'm not mistaken, then if you ever wanted to upgrade to the newer Mark 3, Native is now going to offer it at a bit of a discount. So regarding whether to upgrade to Maschine 3, if you just use the software or already have the Mark 3 or Maschine Plus as a controller, hopefully this video helped you decide if it's worth it. I think the upgrade is a no-brainer. Stem separation is a ton of fun. The MIDI editing tools are very useful, and bounce in place and per scene tempo are essential for transferring projects over to Maschine Plus, assuming it'll support Maschine 3, of course, or if you're preparing a live performance with multiple songs in a single project. Now, regarding the Maschine Central factory expansion, if you were ever considering getting a Maschine expansion, this is probably the best bang for the buck in terms of sheer scope of what you get. And while you don't get these actual contact instruments, you get a nice taste of a broad variety of them. And I know I'm going to get this question, is Maschine now more worth it compared to an MPC? Overall, if I had to point out to the three biggest differences, the first is that MPC is more oriented towards creating a single linear production, whereas Maschine is more oriented towards clip-based composition and performance. But with that said, if you want, Maschine does have a linear arranger, and MPC can mimic this kind of scene-based or clip-based workflow if you use different sequences. I think it's important to watch a few workflow videos of both, hopefully mine, I'll link to a few below, and decide which you find more compelling, because there's not much one can do that the other can't, it's more about how you get there. Besides the workflow, I think there are two other big differences. One other difference is the interaction with a touch screen compared to interaction with buttons and knobs. That's a matter of personal preference, of course. With MPC, you'll mostly be interacting with a touch screen. I find myself most of the time ignoring its Q-Link knobs other than on MPC X, whereas on Maschine, the buttons on top and the encoders on the bottom are what you'll be interacting with the most. There are way more buttons, for example, for direct selection of groups, so you can get to parameters faster. And you have more knobs than on most MPCs, but there's no touchscreen if that's the workflow you prefer. And then the third important difference in terms of standalone capabilities is that MPC has more physical options, MPC1, LiveX, and keys, and also force, as opposed to only one physical option for Maschine, or two if you connect Jam to it. So that's it for Maschine 3. If you'd like to feed it a bunch of sampled analog instruments, check out my Patreon, where you'll also find my ever-expanding book of electronic music ideas, tips, and tricks. Hit like if this was useful, ring the YouTube bell below if you want to make sure you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.